For over a century, cars have made our world go round. We've built billions of them. Thanks to evolving technology, they're made quicker and more intricately than ever before.
We have more than 1 trillion different possible combinations.
Any variation of colour, of material that you can think of, we can actually replicate in these rooms.
Nowhere are the stakes higher than in the world of luxury and bespoke cars.
We could potentially have a scrap car. It is that critical.
In this series, we'll see 5 iconic cars built from scratch. From bare metal to finished product. Using high-tech robots and clever techniques that are hundreds of years old.
We have a customer who has a piece of moon rock. We will be painting his Valkyrie in moon rock dust paint. It doesn't get more extreme than that.
This time, the reimagining of an automotive icon, the London Taxi. A timeless British design brought up to date to meet the needs of a 21st century city.
This is the only and first electric purpose-built taxi in the world.
This state-of-the-art factory is learning how to build a new type of vehicle from scratch. A vehicle that needs to withstand more punishment than any car.
It's not a customer car that's just being used to get to work and back every day. These guys are in their vehicles sometimes 12 hours a day.
You get a diverse range of people that use the cab, from a Saturday night special right the way through to a business trip or a trip from a high-class hotel.
Using all new techniques.
Which is why we have to make sure our quality is really, really good. Potentially, we got £7,000 worth of scrap material.
To meet the growing demand from Britain's cabbies, who need the taxi's sports car price tag to deliver big. This is how to build a London cab. At the end of the 19th century, London was the biggest city on the planet. Horsepower was how people travelled. From horse-drawn trams and buses for the masses to private coaches for the rich. Horse-drawn cabs have been part of London since the 1630s. But all that changed with the introduction of an electric cab in 1897. Scores of petrol-powered cabs followed, and a compulsory taximeter in 1907 gave us the term taxi cab. After the Second World War, Austin dominated the taxi market, with the diesel-powered FX4 becoming the iconic black London cab, staying in production for almost 50 years. In 1997, the London Taxi Company introduced an all-new cab, designed to retain the well-loved look of its predecessor. In the face of stiff competition, today the manufacturer has rebranded itself the London Electric Vehicle Company, and has launched a new electric model, the TX. There's a lot riding on this new cab. It's got to be future-proof, low emissions and user-friendly. Otherwise, the British black cab will become a thing of the past. The manufacturer has invested heavily in a state-of-the-art factory near Coventry.
So what we see here around us is a £500 million investment.
That has the capacity to make 20,000 cabs per year, with 500 staff dedicated to making a vehicle like no other. The cab needs to carry 6 in the back, provide ultimate safety, and run on electricity. The cab we'll follow begins this build journey here in the body shop. It's where the body will be made, the empty shell that will eventually be filled with seats, electrics, and an engine.
This is where the start of the taxi goes together.
Our car's body arrives from suppliers as over 400 different parts.
And it is like a big Meccano set, you know.
The first job is to add fixings.
There's about 1,200 actual fixings that go into this car. Majority of them are for vehicle assembly, so they can fit everything in.
Everything from the seat belts to the floor will attach to these crucial fixings.
We're fitting all the fixtures into these parts, so when it goes down further into the vehicles, they can attach certain parts to it. It's the front middle tunnel, so obviously that's where all the controls just on the left. Depending if you're a right-hand drive car, it's just on the side where the taxi driver would be. It's got all the controls.
Incredibly, all the structural parts of our taxi will be held together with glue that's so good it's stronger than welding. So that the adhesive robot can apply just the right amount of glue in just the right places, all the components are placed precisely on specially shaped trays called platens.
What we're doing now is making sure that everything is placed correctly to protect the robot. The robots are very expensive, so the robot will apply the adhesive. It's critical. The adhesive goes in the wrong place, doesn't apply somewhere, we could potentially have a scrap car. So Josh will load this, the door will close, and this platen will move forward. So what we've got now is the door shuts because there's infrared cameras going in now, checking to make sure that everything's in the right place. Normally takes about 30-40 seconds.
This system is called a poka-yoke, a Japanese term that means mistake-proof. Its infrared cameras confirm that every part of the cab has been laid out exactly where the adhesive robot will expect. And with a pass for this platen, it's on to the gluing.
It's a single pack glue, activates with heat.
That means it won't set hard until it's been put in the oven at its precise activating temperature.
We can leave over a weekend, it's no problem. We can't leave it more than 5 or 6 days open in air because we could get contamination in. So for Christmas shutdowns, any sort of shutdowns more than a couple of days, we have to empty all of our process line. But it won't go hard. This is where it gets a little bit messy. The guys down here have got to physically pick the parts off the platen. And as we've already mentioned a few times, the adhesive is very critical to the car. So they have to try and avoid touching any of the adhesive when they put it into their fixture. So when we've compressed the parts together, this proves to me that we've got enough glue on these parts, because now, if there wasn't anything there coming out, we potentially could have a problem. We don't know if the adhesive has been applied in the correct way. So what we look for is that is perfect. That's slightly too much. So not only now if we put that on, it's cost us time and money to put it on, it's going to cost us time and money to get it back off.
The 400 plus pieces that make up the body are temporarily held in place by rivets until the glue dries hard.
So you can see now that the front end of the car's gone together, we've fitted the flooring, actual rear end of the car is now on as well. So again, this is probably about 5 or 10 minutes from being complete in station 30. Looking a lot more like a taxi now.
The entire structure of our taxi is now one piece. It's ready for baking, the point of no return.
We can take the car apart once we put it together, pre-cook, but once it's been cooked, it is very, very difficult. Which is why we have to make sure our quality is really, really good. If we get to the stage where the car's been cooked, potentially we've got £7,000 worth of scrap material.
The glue provides all the structural integrity for the car. It's vital the team know it's going to hold, so every car's glue must be tested.
So we've got young Dean that gives us the green light to actually put the car in the oven. And these are the test plates that go through with every car.
The glue and the aluminium on these test plates are from the same batches used on the car.
Dean will apply a single bead of glue to the plates, simply clamp them together, bulldog clip either side, and then they go into the car. So they really validate the cook. If we put a car through without any test plates, it's a scrap car, it's as simple as that.
Our taxi spends 20 minutes in the oven at 180 degrees. Once it's cooked, it can't move on until Dean's 5 test plates are tested to destruction.
We have a load minimum of 29 kilonewtons and an energy to pull the plate apart of 80 joules.
Brilliant.
As long as they meet those parameters,
We're good.
we're good.
Okay.
This test will decide if our body show will go on to be a taxi or just scrap metal.
It does go with a bit of a bang. You'll be fine, but it does go, it is quite loud when it pulls. Good pull, that one, Dave. Good.
Yes, very good. The idea is that the glue is the failure, not the coupon. And if that's okay, then it's a good pull.
Our car is now a skeleton. Up to this point, every taxi is exactly the same as every other taxi. But now it's time for each one to be assigned a customer order.
This screen here is exactly what our sales team want us to build. This then will associate everything to this car. So if a guy in London or wherever it may be has said, I want a starburst yellow car with cloth seats and a carpet and no air conditioning, this is where it'll start.
Like 80% of orders, our taxi will be raven black, easily the most popular colour. Although for a company making black cabs, there are a surprising number of options available.
People only think we do raven black. You'll be surprised to know actually within the paint systems at least 23 colours.
We are looking at all parts of the world, and it's too early to say, but let's see, maybe one day we see a black yellow cab in New York.
I think what's happening at the moment is a lot of cab drivers are seeing the charcoal greys and the blues and thinking, that's a nice colour. The car doesn't have to be black.
As with 80% of orders, our taxi is due to see out its working life in the UK, so it'll be right-hand drive. It'll come with the unique range extender dual engine system. The new owner has chosen the full-spec Vista Comfort Plus luxury package at a total cost of just under £60,000. Back at the body shop, our soon-to-be raven black cab is about to receive its roof and sides. That means more gluing. But unlike the hot cure glue used on the structure, applying this cold cure glue is time critical.
It's robot-applied adhesive again. This stuff goes off pretty quick though. This stuff reacts as a chemical reaction. So we've got a countdown timer, gives us 12, 13 minutes, then we have to fit the panels. If we haven't fitted the panels in that time, we have to put them to one side, let the adhesive cure, and then scrape off afterwards.
With panels on, our taxi has passed through the body shop. It's been here for over 11 hours, but unlike many car factories, this body shell has been built from the ground up. Next, our cab will spend 13 hours on the assembly line, where it'll get 7 seats, 1 smash-proof partition, and an all-electric powertrain. Our cab must be finished in 17 hours, but it's got a long way to go. We're at the London Taxi Factory in Coventry, where 15 electric black cabs are made every day. Although not necessarily black ones, and not all are for London.
We did a taxi in Frankfurt, which was in Taxi Beige, which is the colour out in Germany. To be able to paint a vehicle in the colour that the client would like is very much an offering that can be looked at.
In the future, the company hopes that most of its sales will be abroad. But today, the UK is still the biggest market, and classic raven black is still by far the most popular colour choice. The cab we're following is a right-hand drive model in raven black, priced at just under £60,000. Now its shell has been built from over 400 individual pieces of aluminium, our cab is ready to hit the assembly line.
Willie, you okay? We're now in vehicle assembly as we build along this line, which is called pre-trim. The system works on a push to go. In other words, when they have completed, they will push their finish button and the vehicle will move forward.
Pre-trim is the first stage of our cab's mammoth vehicle assembly process. There are 6 stations here dedicated to the crucial first components that will be hidden from sight once the vehicle is fully built.
Stuart here is putting in evaporation system, which is a breather system that comes out from the fuel tank system.
The evaporation device collects any vaporized petrol that gets stuck in the fuel system and stores it safely rather than pollute the atmosphere. The next job is to give our taxi its identity. Riveting plates displaying its unique vehicle ID number that'll stay with our cab for the rest of its life.
You begin to fit brake lines, fuel lines, some of the major electrical systems obviously on the vehicle. And that's typical motor industry standard practice, but what differs greatly with us is with the amount of electrical componentry that goes on the vehicle as we go through the build stage in vehicle assembly.
Our taxi's main source of power will be a high-voltage lithium-ion battery running the electric motor. And with more electrics than a traditional car, there are lots of cables to fit, about 1.5 miles of them.
Now, anything typically with bright orange is high voltage, and you want to stay away from that unless you are specifically trained. So we have to make sure that we get the connections right. We have to make sure that we don't have anything not connected, because if the vehicle fails on our testing system, then sometimes that's a major strip out.
Basically, I fit in the engine bay harness, as you can see, the coolant pipes here, aircon. Green it off now because the station's complete. I'm going to raise it and then send it off for it to complete to the next station.
After 6 stations and just under 2.5 hours of work, the pre-trim process is complete.
We come from the basic body shell into what I would say is probably 25% built, but that 25% is really critical in terms of the safety and functionality of the vehicle. Whilst it may look relatively empty, what goes into there is a significant part of the vehicle.
Building any car is complicated. The team at LEVC need to stick to the same construction, safety and equipment rules as any other car manufacturer.
That's the same as a Ferrari, a Jaguar, a Rolls-Royce or a 4KA. We all have a set of rules that we need to comply with.
But with taxis, there's a whole extra set of rules that need to be followed.
It's a unique vehicle. It's a little bit of a cross between a commercial vehicle and a public service vehicle. We are licensed to operate as a taxi, so we can pick up passengers and charge them a fare through the local authorities in the cities where the taxi operates. And for example, there's over 300 of those in the UK.
Of the 300 cities, the biggest cab consumer has always been London. And LEVC had to meet all the quirky Transport for London regulations, including the age-old rule that a taxi's turning circle must be tight enough to make the small roundabout at the front of the Savoy Hotel.
That's one of the most ancient rules. The TfL particularly feel very strongly the benefits of being able to turn around the road on traffic flow.
This pin joint here is the axis by which the vehicle or the steering articulates. That's very unusual. In most traditional vehicles, the steering axis is rotating around this pinpoint, which means that the space that the wheel requires to articulate is much, much greater than in our design.
By moving the point that the front wheels steer outwards away from the suspension, means this simple but clever design ensures our new taxi can still turn on a sixpence, just like its predecessors.
So in our vehicle, we're able to achieve a very extreme steering angle of 62 degrees. Whereas typically what you'd see in a normal passenger car is just over half that, a 37-degree steering angle.
One of the more recent rules from TfL ensures tourist passengers get to enjoy seeing London's famous landmarks as they travel around the capital.
There is a legal requirement from a position on the passenger's hip point here to this point on the top of the window here that allows an occupant to look up and see London's monuments and landmarks. It demands a minimum height. So you couldn't have a Ferrari as a taxi because this minimum height couldn't be required. So that's just one of the real oddball requirements of being a London taxi.
And the vehicle must be wheelchair accessible, both through a ramp.
Slides out easily, it drops to the floor like this. We then have a series of side guards that we deploy. Again, a legal requirement under Transport for London rules, but also designed to stop any wheelchair occupant dropping off the edge.
And a swivel seat. Back on the assembly line, our taxi is on an automatic guided vehicle, or AGV.
You'll see that there are trackways in the floor, so that's part of the automatic guided vehicle. They are battery operated, they have sensors on them. You'll see that there are red lines on the floor. If you move inside of those red lines, the AGV will sense you and it will stop, and I will not be happy.
We're going to enter stage 3, trim. The trim line is the main assembly area. This is where all the non-mechanical components go into our cab. Everything from the doors to the floors. The trim team are constantly supplied with components from several other areas of the factory, where bigger, more complex pieces of the jigsaw are made, from the dashboard to the doors. It needs to run like clockwork. Every time a taxi body enters trim, each sub-assembly area must have their parts ready to be fitted.
Simple to forget that if you're not in a manufacturing term, but without these things function as they should in an efficient manner and being fed to the track at the time that's required, then you'll simply stop the production line.
The first part to be ready is our instrument panel.
It used to be called old days fascia or dashboard, okay? But now we're in the modern world, IP. And the guys will start to bolt onto it the harnesses, the modules, information centre, all the clocks, the dials, the aircon, heating, ventilation system. You can't continue to build the vehicle without this being passed off and ready to go.
This 21st century taxi needs more than just a speedo and a stereo. Today's cabbie demands Bluetooth, a touchscreen computer, USB ports and sat-nav on top of all the driver aids you'd expect from a modern car.
This isn't a private vehicle. This is a working vehicle, a very high-spec working vehicle. And you think the amount of time that the owner or the driver sits in this thing. So the passenger compartment, ergonomically and practically, has to be really, really good.
The TX is very much a workhorse, and it is actually the driver's office for up to 12 hours a day.
Let's not forget, this car is not like us going and buying a car. This is a business for a cabbie. He's got to be comfy, he's got to have all the mod cons around him with the sat-nav, the aircon, everything he needs. It's his office, it's his canteen.
Our cabbie also needs to be protected. The key safety items are installed next.
It has all the necessary and latest airbag specification levels that you require on a modern vehicle. Seat belts are going in. And the gun works with Bluetooth. You see a screen on it on there, and it will link to the screen that's up on display. It will measure the speed, the angle, and the applied torque at that point, and it will only go green when it's met all of those parameters.
Next to go in are the all-important seats.
Whilst it may not look a major component, it is actually, in my view, and certainly the driver's view, probably one of the most important parts in want to fit in the vehicle.
Our black cab is receiving the full £60,000 driver spec, making this driver's seat heated and fully electric. The passengers in the back are getting a little extra seating too.
The key thing about the TX being purpose-built is that we have the opportunity to drive the design from the ground up.
6 seats in the back, so 3 couples can now get in there. A lot more room in the back.
And the taxi drivers for many, many years have always requested a 6th seat. So we've listened to our drivers and we've given them the facility to carry the extra person.
You get a diverse range of people that use the cab, and it's used from a Saturday night special right the way through to a business trip or a trip from a high-class hotel.
And because our driver will never know exactly who they're going to pick up, the next sub-assembly area prepares the potentially life-saving dividing screen.
Then you have an acrylic screen that goes in as a safety screen and protects the driver, and it also gives separation to the customer. That undergoes rigorous testing to ensure that it doesn't break and ensure that it stands up to the safety and security that's required. At one stage, it's tested with baseball bats to get people in the back, trying to kick it out, and that was part of the test regime that we did. And it has to withstand all of those type of things. Not that necessarily the driver is going to be subjected to that, but we try and cater for all eventualities.
After 15 hours of build time, the interior of our cab is complete, but it's far from ready to pick up its first fare. This techno taxi still needs a motor to make it move.
It's capable of producing up to 180 kilowatts. That's a very substantial power output, getting on more towards your high-powered sports car.
And for the first time in its history, there are 2 power plants to be fitted.
With the range extender, we can see up to 377 miles of total range of the vehicle.
The team only have 12.5 hours remaining to complete this £60,000 mile-munching, passenger-proof electric London taxi. following a £60,000 taxi in Raven Black as it's built from scratch. It needs to be ready for a hard-working life, ferrying thousands of passengers and covering distances that ordinary cars would likely never see. So far, our cab has a body built from aluminium and composite pieces that have been glued together. It has an interior with more space and comfort than ever before.
6 seats in the back, so 3 couples can now get in there. A lot more room in the back.
You get a diverse range of people that use the cab, from a Saturday night special right the way through to a business trip.
The London Electric Vehicle Company in Coventry are now 3,000 taxis into their brand new model build. A 6-passenger London cab that does away with polluting diesel engines of the past, replacing them with an electric battery and a motor aided by a petrol engine. Back on the production line is the next stage of the trim installation. Our taxi is still an open shell, so next the doors are built up. The front doors are like any other car, but the rear doors are unique.
We actually build the thing from scratch. So we have an outer skin or substrate, which is not metal. It is a composite material. And we have a door inner, which is the traditional press method. We then bond the two together. So that is a move away from what was traditionally done, which has been welded or spot welded.
Once the glue is dry, paint is applied, and the window glass is installed before the complicated doors undergo an electrical test.
So basically you've got door glass, you've got the door outer, you will have the glass runner channels, you will have the regulator motors, the door harness, the Bowden cable and the electrical connections on there. And the guys will build that on a set and they'll move that manually through the process.
While our doors are tested, the cab's glass arrives. There are 5 pieces of glass, 2 windscreens, left and right quarter lights, and the taxi's party piece, its panoramic roof.
Part of the pleasure, if you like, or customer enhancement we try to do is to, if we put the pano roof in, and that does open the vehicle up.
Our taxi's doors are now complete and meet our car in the final trim station.
Richard and Brian here are fitting the doors. They'll fit the front and rear doors. Obviously got lift assist because it's a heavy bit of kit.
The design of the passenger doors hark back to the classic black cab. Hinged at the rear and traditionally known as suicide doors, they are the most effective way for passengers to get in and out with ease. Able to open a full 90 degrees, they're also used in luxury limousines and Rolls-Royces alike.
These are actually a rise and fall wheel door. The hinge design on the rear doors enables the door to, as the door is opened, to lift up, so it gains approximately 40 to 50 millimetres of height. So when you open the door, you don't want it dragging on the curb. Think about how many times the doors on the back of this vehicle are open and closed. They've got to be able to withstand the wear and tear.
With the doors and windows installed, our cab is a completed shell. But the only way it can move at the moment is on the AGV, the automatic guided vehicle. It's time for this cab to get some power.
Hiya. I'm good.
Our taxi is defined as a range-extending electric vehicle, meaning it'll run entirely on power provided by its electric motor and battery pack.
So what we have here is the high-voltage battery for the vehicle. This is very much the heart of our vehicle. The battery itself is capable of producing up to 180 kilowatts of power. That's a very substantial power output, certainly substantially beyond what would be normally in a typical family car.
The upsides of being electric are obvious. No tailpipe emissions mean cleaner air in our cities. And there's the added benefit of a nice, quiet ride. The downside, though, the battery can only provide a range of 80 miles. So what happens when the cab runs out of juice?
It wouldn't be untypical for our customers to pick up a fare maybe in central London and want to go to Birmingham Airport. With the electric vehicle working in conjunction with the range extender, we can see up to 377 miles of total range of the vehicle without needing to stop to recharge or put some fuel in the tank.
The range extender is a 1.5-litre petrol engine. So when our cabbie doesn't have time to plug in and charge up, it'll produce energy and charge the battery.
So here we are on the sub-assembly line where Dan is hard at work sub-assembling the range extender to the integrated starter generator. Control system of the vehicle decides that it requires some additional energy via the range extender. Then it commands the starter generator to first of all crank the engine, start it. Then it takes the rotational energy out of the engine to drive the generator, which then develops power to feed into the electrical system.
The range extender's job is to run only when the battery is low. It's not linked to the wheels at all. The power it generates just charges the battery. Using their range extending design, the company already has plans to base other vehicles on this same platform.
We always have to reinvent ourselves. The iconic black caps will always be the center, and it's the heritage of the company. However, in order to fill a 20,000 car factory every year, in order to have a sustainable business in the future, in order to make this brand survive long-term for the future, we are thinking about new product ideas. And the main thing is our electric van. We launched this product in London with the mayor, and we will introduce it into the market the third quarter next year, suitable for delivering parcels, mail into the city.
In most cars, the powertrain comprises of an engine, gearbox, exhaust, front and back axle, and some wheels. Everything that makes it go, all joined together as one platform. Here, though, the taxi's powertrain is quite different.
In a traditional car, the engine is mechanically linked to the drive wheels. So the engine links through drive shafts, differentials. The turning of the engine directly drives the turning of the wheels and gives the motive power of the vehicle. In our car, it's very, very different. We have an electric motor, and that's the only moving part, effectively, in the drivetrain. So the battery is connected by electric cabling to the drive motor, and it's electric charge that flows from the battery through the high voltage power electronics into the rear motor that allows the motor to turn and drive the car.
The all-electric powertrain is where this cab really differs from its predecessors. It's only the front axle that remains similar to the traditional taxi. Behind that, instead of a prop shaft transmitting power from the engine, is the 180 kilowatt battery. And behind that, all the complicated electrical management systems.
We have a mid-zone under tray area, as we call it, which contains all of the power electronics which are needed to manage the electrical energy flow through the battery and into the drive motor. And this is the connection that is made to the back of the battery that we saw earlier. So electrical energy flows in DC format into this box here, which is an inverter module, converts the DC electrical energy into AC electrical energy, which then flows out three-phase from the inverter through these large cables and, as you can see, into the drive motor at the back of the vehicle there.
Finally, the motor in our cab is at the back, mounted directly onto the rear axle,
which has at its heart the electric drive motor for the vehicle, then drive shafts on either side of the drive motor running through into the drive wheels for the vehicle.
With the powertrain section built, our cab is ready for its marriage. The coming together of the electric powertrain and the body.
Here we are just next to the assembly line in the area where we bring together all the key elements of the underbody of the vehicle and the drive system of the vehicle.
Once the sections are in order, the high voltage connections are made between them.
Well, this really is where the heart of the vehicle comes together in readiness to go to the line on the marriage fixture and be lifted up and brought together with the body of the vehicle.
Our cab body meets this powertrain and is lowered into position. The smart systems in the factory ensure the body and the powertrain are exactly lined up. It now takes 5 technicians 29 minutes, using 226 fixings and making 32 electrical connections to join the two halves of our cab, and to make sure the top half and the bottom half can communicate with one another. With marriage complete, our cab is beginning to look like a finished vehicle. It's been in build now for over 20 hours. There's just one more assembly line left, but many major parts are still to be fitted. And there are hours of tough tests to pass before our cab can meet its waiting owner. We're following the build of an electric London cab. Our cab began its journey through the LEVC factory as pieces of aluminium, which have been glued together to create the structure.
We use it to hold the car together totally. It's a lot stronger than weld, the glue.
It's been slowly built up, piece by piece, with a 6-seat interior, smash-proof partition, and the electric powertrain, plus a small petrol engine known as the range extender, to help our cabbie out when the power's low.
With the electric vehicle working in conjunction with the range extender, we can see up to 377 miles of total range of the vehicle.
It's a brand new type of cab that LEVC hopes will dominate the streets of London and other cities around the world. With an all-new design and all-new type of powertrain, it needs to be a success.
To work on an iconic vehicle is a privilege. I actually worked on the TX1 back in the mid-90s, so this is the second time round for me.
The last time an all-new London taxi came along was in 1997. Before that, the staple black cab had been the Austin FX4, which, although it was updated from time to time, had been the same design for 49 years. New cabs don't come along very often.
When we looked into the history of the product, in particular there were some key identifying features. The flow of the bonnet into the roof, into the rear boot, the very prominent grille, and the lights. The round lights were very much a character of the vehicle. These are all features that we felt were very specific to this product that you could utilise in a new way in this new TX product. And it's a friendly character as well. It's a trusting vehicle, something that you want to get into.
Designing a new taxi means making a vehicle that's going to last, really last.
The interior is an interior like no other in terms of its usage. It is an interior that will see many, many people in and out every day.
A survey of British taxi drivers found 60% had experienced passengers vomiting in their cabs, 13% had experienced women in labour, and 2% had seen women give birth in their cabs.
Therefore, the type of materials that are selected and the durability of those materials is very key in terms of how to make this product last as long as possible and look good. So we have vinyls, we have easy clean cloths, and we have durable flooring, which aids the durability but also the cleaning out of these products.
After almost 20 hours, our taxi is now heading to the final assembly, which begins with the installation of the range extender. This 1.5-litre petrol engine drives the generator that charges our cab's battery pack when plugging into the mains isn't an option.
There's absolutely no direct mechanical connection between the engine and the drive wheels. The engine could realistically be packaged anywhere in the vehicle that we choose. In our particular case, we've chosen to package it under the bonnet in a traditional location, but that's just really for efficient use of space and layout in the vehicle.
After that is secured and the electrical connections are made, the front of the vehicle can be secured with its safety crash bar, and the outer panels can be attached.
After engine marriage, this is when we first put the wheels on, we first put the vehicle on the ground, and the vehicle is now fully laden. There's about 32 little mini computers in the vehicle where we have to download this latest version of the software which control all of the systems on the vehicle. Following that's when we do the fluid fill. Fluid filled, obviously we put in brake fluid, pass fluid, all the waters and oils to ensure that the vehicle is fully lubricated and all the systems are working. We then do the ECOS. The ECOS is a final buy-off to check that all of the connections have been made, everything's connected up how it should be. We charge the battery, and that's the first point that we actually start the vehicle, and the vehicle is then ready to go for final verification and buy-off in the end-of-line area.
Our cab is one of 15 to leave the assembly line today. It's built, but its journey through the factory isn't over yet. Before any taxi can meet its driver for the first time, it needs to undergo testing and inspection to ensure it can cope with its hard-working life ahead.
We'd make sure we go above and beyond with our durability testing. We're sort of selling a business here. This is somebody's livelihood, so customer quality and performance is absolutely paramount.
With the cabbie's livelihood on the line, Matt is the man who ensures that these electric taxis are capable of driving around the world on average over 20 times in their working lives.
So I'm in charge of quality operations, so it's final vehicle inspection, 2 gateways, monsoon, squeak and rattle, and CAT. We get 15 vehicles together and we send a vehicle into what's called QS audit, where they'll do like a 4-hour real thorough inspection of the vehicle. If they, unlikely event that they do find something, we then have a list come back to us, and then we sweep the batch for that defect, which is another further safeguard.
Matt and his team need to have eagle eyes, because this is one vehicle that will be transporting a lot more critical passengers than the average car.
Inspect for any underbody issues, checking for clips and clamps, all that kind of stuff. So this is our final inspection ramp. Vehicle will go up in the air, operator will check underneath. It'll then come back down, we'll then check the engine bay, check all fluid levels, do all the functional tests, check indicators, lights, all that kind of stuff. It then rolls forward into this bay here, where these 2 gentlemen will start looking at interior trims and different parts of that, check all the profiles, make sure all the gap and flushes are fine, make sure all the doors are functioning properly.
With everything looking good, our taxi gets its first glimpse of daylight. Running on electric power for the very first time. There's a test of the steering, ensuring our cabbie will get their extra tight 10.4-meter turning circle going left and right. Then it's a series of starts and stops that'll reveal if there are any nasty noises under braking. And on to squeaks and rattles, the bumpier surfaces our cab is ever likely to encounter.
Squeak and rattle is a track which simulates the normal road conditions for a cabbie. We make sure that there's nothing loose and that everything's put together properly.
Because our taxi is running on electric, the ride is super quiet, so the inspectors will easily hear any rogue loose components.
When it's operating in full electric mode, the vehicle is literally silent.
Finally, the taxi is tested for the great British weather.
One of my guys pick it up and they drive it into the monsoon chamber, then jets will kick off, and any leaks or problems that we find all get documented on a terminal, and we all feed it back to the builder. And then we rectify and retest. It's quite intense. We spray it from all angles, from underneath, on the top, to try and simulate a car wash essentially, or adverse weather conditions, just so that we make sure that we're happy that the vehicle is suitable to go to a customer.
Washed and blow-dried, our electric London cab has graduated from quality control and is ready to start its career. "27 hours in build and some very thorough testing has produced one Raven Black electric London taxi, ready to pick up fare after fare, the good ones and the bad ones, for many thousands of miles. Around 3,000 TXs have already entered service. So how realistic is LEVC's electric dream? Carl Sandu is a driver from the West Midlands who's taken the plunge and bought one.
My normal day now is basically start with a fully charged vehicle, and I generally work in and around where I live because I've got a charge point at home. So in between bookings, I generally just pull up on my drive and plug it in. So I try to work the whole day purely on electric. I bought it because of the environment issue, and I just wanted to be ahead of the game, you know, and get in there right at the start.
But with a price tag of £60,000, the same cost as a premium SUV or a sports car, owners of the TX will want the new electric platform to work in their favour financially.
We get confirmed by our taxi drivers already that you can save more than £100 per week on fuel with our new electric taxi, which is quite substantial.
The running cost of this is a third of what it used to be on my previous taxis, and that basically pays for itself as far as I'm concerned. Black cabs are the icon for this country, and I'm supporting it by, you know, always buying black cabs in my trade.
Feedback we're getting from not only the drivers themselves, but the guys that are using them is fantastic. One of my colleagues was in London a few weeks ago, and there were 5 or 6 old TXs at the cab rank, and a new TX pulled up, and people were, I won't go as far as say fighting, but they were waiting to get into that cab because they hadn't been in one before. So, you know, that speaks volumes for us.
With our taxi now on its way to London, it looks as though the black cab tradition that's been with us for well over 100 years is going to live on well into the 21st century.